कीजिएगा। हेलो, आप लोग का टेस्ट कल होगा, ठीक है? फोर्थ, हाँ कभी कभी कल भी आ जाता है। गवर्नमेंट ट्रेजरी बिल्स आर ट्रेडेड इन मनी मार्केट also. Treasury bills are traded in money market also because it's less than 1 year maturity. In money market, banks or financial institutions or companies, their own debt paper also trades and government's treasury bills also trade because it's less than 1 year maturity. ठीक है? And in capital market, dated securities of government of India also gets traded more than 1 year maturity. So in capital market, companies bonds and government bonds, dated securities, they both trade. Of course, yes. Because money supply is defined as public's money, and if you will count interbank deposits, it will be counted twice. You kept money in bank, that is part of money supply. Now, if that money again bank keeps with another bank, it will be double counting. और कोई? So you guys are studying the newspaper ना? हाँ? पढ़ रहे हो ना? Because newspaper is must. ठीक है, वो आपको follow करना. And so we understood the difference between money supply and monetary base, है ना? Monetary base is liability of RBI, and money supply is money with the public, and both can differ. In yesterday's example, the difference was because of आज भी मोहन ब्रदर, देखो आप डेली रिवाइज करके आओ एटलीस्ट फॉर द नेक्स्ट 15 days बिकॉज दे आर क्वाइट कॉन्सेप्चुअल कॉन्सेप्ट्स, आपको रिवाइज करना पड़ेगा। अर्लियर मनी सप्लाई मॉनेटरी बेस वाज सेम व्हेन गवर्नमेंट कलेक्टेड टैक्स, RBI's liability remained the same, but money supply, money with the public decreased. So there is a difference. There is a difference between monetary base and money supply. ठीक है, दोनों को आप मिक्स नहीं करना। मनी क्रिएशन, टैक्सेशन एंड इन्फ्लेशन आप कल थे क्लास में? हाँ, एक क्लास नवंबर बैच में, एक क्लास जुलाई बैच में, एक क्लास क्रैश कोर्स में, हाँ सब हौच-पौच हो जाएगा। आपको मैं तीनों बैच में देख लिया। अब कहाँ आपने कहा किस क्लास में कौन सा टॉपिक पढ़ा ये मुझे नहीं याद है। Yesterday I told that money supply when government collects as tax, when government collects your money, now your money came with government, so less money is left with you, money supply decreases, inflation decreases, huh? Inflation decrease, government collected tax, money supply decreased, inflation decreased. ठीक, यही होता है टैक्स एंड इन्फ्लेशन का। व्हेनेवर गवर्नमेंट कलेक्ट्स टैक्स, देखो इट इज ऑल अबाउट दिस, हियर वी हैव पब्लिक एंड वी हैव गुड्स आल्सो। द मनी विद द पब्लिक इज परचेजिंग द आउटपुट, मनी विद द पब्लिक इज परचेजिंग द आउटपुट। व्हेन गवर्नमेंट टेक्स दिस मनी, less money is available with the public, and inflation decreases. So whenever government collects tax, money supply decreases. ठीक है? Because the concept of money supply itself says that ki money with the public, public's money chasing the goods and services. So monetary base and money supply clear है? कौन सोच कर रहा है यार? There are two ratios currency deposit ratio, currency deposit currency held by public upon deposits of public. So our assumption is CDR is 1. See, the ratio CDR tells that what is the currency held by the public and what is the currency held by the public in the banks. So currency held by public upon deposits of public. I have assumed in this example, now we are going to take a simple explanation. I have assumed that let's CDR is 1. ठीक है? Generally in the economy, CDR is more than 1 or less than 1? Generally in the economy, CDR is more than 1 or less than 1? Deposit of public, may demand and time both are included. Now you tell me this ratio generally in the economy is less than 1 or more than 1? Less than 1, we have more deposits, less cash. So this ratio is generally less than 1, but for simplicity I have assumed it 1. That means whatever is the money with us, 50% we keep in cash form and 50% we keep in deposit form. That's why this ratio is 1. This is just an assumption. The another ratio is, ये समझ गया सब लोग ना रेशियो? रिजर्व डिपॉजिट रेशियो. Reserve deposit ratio means reserves of bank upon deposits of public. Now what are reserves basically? Suppose you deposited 100 rupees in bank. Now bank don't keep all the money in cash form. Bank lends some money. So if you kept 100 rupees and bank kept with itself 20 rupees and lent 80 rupees. So the reserve of the bank is 20 and the deposit of the public is 100. So reserve deposit ratio is 20 upon 100. Reserve means whatever bank has not lent. That part of your deposit which the bank has not lent, that is called reserve. So I have assumed that reserve deposit ratio is 20%. That means whatever you deposit, 20% bank keeps with itself and rest 80% it lends. ठीक है? So these are the two ratios. Now let's take an example to understand this. Yesterday when that person deposited physical gold, RBI issued how many rupees note? 500. So at that time reserve was, RBI's liability was 500 and money supply was 500. Now we are going to generalize that. Just suppose that this person deposited gold, physical gold with RBI worth rupees capital H. worth rupees capital H, and RBI gave currency notes to this person worth rupees capital H. So he got capital H. Monetary base, H. Money supply, H. Currency held by public, vault cash, deposit of public and money supply. This is just a table. So the person deposited gold worth rupees capital H, and RBI gave capital H currency note to the person. Monetary base H and money supply H. Now you know that the person tendency has this, he keeps half in cash and half he deposits in bank. So H by 2 he kept with it himself, person 1. H by 2, this person H by 2 he kept with himself, and H by 2, taking H by 2 he went to bank. ठीक है? Taking H by 2 he went to bank and he asked the bank manager to deposit. Bank एकदम concentrate करके यहाँ पे देखना. The bank manager took that H by 2 cash and wrote a statement. The public has deposited H by 2. This is just a statement written in the bank's account. So the bank wrote this statement, it gave a slip to that person, and bank kept all the cash in its locker. Vault cash means locker. So this is just a statement and this is the locker. Money supply. Money supply H. Half in cash form and half what he is seeing in the deposit account statement. He is saying what is in the deposit. Money supply has nothing to do with this. Okay? Money supply means in cash form and what he is seeing in the deposit account statement जिससे reflect हो रहा है, right? Let's repeat this statement again. H by 2 he kept in his pocket hard cash, and H by 2 he went to bank. He asked the bank to deposit H by 2. Bank wrote the statement that public has deposited H by 2. This is just a statement. While the bank was going to keep cash in its locker vault, RBI said, don't keep all the deposits in locker. You keep just 20% in the locker. You just keep 20% in the locker. Rest you can lend. Rest you can lend to someone else. P2. Money supply. How many of you think money supply H? और बाकी लोग कितना? मनी सप्लाई अच्छा चलो ठीक है मनी विथ समझ गया मैं मनी विथ पर्सन P1 P1 has H by 2 in cash form and he is seeing that in his deposit what is the money? h by 2, because here's the statement. Right now, can he make a purchase of h? Yes, he can. Half in cash form and half he will sign the checkbook. So with P1 the money is h, and with P2 0.4h. So total money supply 1.4h. आप देखो क्या हुआ है basically. He had 1,000 rupees. He kept gold. He kept gold, and he got rupees 1,000. He has 1,000 rupees. He kept in his pocket 500 rupees. He deposited to the bank 500 rupees. And bank kept all the 500 rupees in its locker. Money supply 1,000. So he kept 500 in bank. Bank gave a statement worth rupees 500. Bank is keeping in its locker. Money supply 1,000. 500 cash, 500 deposit. If the bank manager gave 400 to him, cash 400 to him, money supply 1,400. It may be possible that if he immediately runs to bank, the bank may not be able to give his entire money. That's another issue. But even if bank lent to him 400, he can still sign a check of rupees 500 plus pay 500 in cash. So whether bank lent or not, for him money is 1,000, and if bank lends money, supply is 1,400. So out of the same money that he kept, some money is given as a loan. Some money is given as a loan. So when RBI said you keep only 20%, rest you lend, then the banks asked that what if all the public will come at once asking for money from the bank, then the bank won't be able to give cash. Then RBI said don't worry about that situation, we will handle that. This step is called money crease. Money crease. ठीक है? Now what is the tendency of this person? Again, whatever cash he gets, 50% he keeps in cash form, 50% he deposits. So 50% he kept in cash form, 50% he deposited. Now bank wrote in the statement 0.8 by 2 h by 2, and then while bank was going to keep cash in locker, RBI said you keep only 20%. And rest 80% the bank lent. P3. Now P3 again keeps half and keeps deposit. जल्दी से नोट कर लो आप. Note कर लो and tell me the sum of first column. Money supply पब्लिक मतलब इंडिविजुअल बिजनेसमैन कोई भी. Public means general public. It may be their company, it may be individuals, anyone except government, except RBI. And you have to draw this, and you have to tell the sum not in decimal but in fraction. Hmm? 31. और कोई नहीं. सीसेट की प्रैक्टिस नहीं कर रहे हो आप लोग. आई एम सेइंग आर्ट्स स्टूडेंट हो तभी तो बोला हूँ कि सीसेट की प्रैक्टिस नहीं कर रहे हो. इंजीनियर होते तो फिर शायद जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है, तब भी पड़ती कर. When I am saying you have to tell this figure in fraction, तो fraction बताओ, don't tell me in decimal. नहीं, जब बोल रहा हूं कि फ्रैक्शन में बताओ फिर भी डेसिमल में बताओगे आप। अच्छा चलो सॉरी, आई एम सॉरी, दिस विल गो ऑन, है ना, दिस स्टेप विल, नाउ ये विल अगेन डिपॉजिट, इट विल गो ऑन। अच्छा तभी गलत आंसर आ रहा था। नहीं, you have to, this is infinite, so the formula that you need to apply is, अच्छा सपोज इधर देखो, सपोज 1 प्लस आर स्क्वायर प्लस क्या था सम, 1 अपॉन 1 माइनस आर। नाउ इफ हियर यू विल सी इट इज h by 2 प्लस 0.8 by 2 h by 2 प्लस 0.8 by 2 square h by 2 plus, now here h by 2 we took common, 1 plus 0.8 by 2 square plus 0.8 by 2 square plus, now this is equal to h by 2 upon, इसका सम बताना है इन फ्रैक्शन, 5/6, इसका सम कैलकुलेट कर लोगे आप ना, करो बताओ कितना आ रहा। ये तो सिंपल है, अब तो सिंपल है ये, पेन पेपर यूज करो, समझ रहे हो ये। सो भाई दिस, इसका फॉर्मूला इज दिस, फर्स्ट कॉलम को आई हैव रिटन लाइक दिस, है ना, नहीं समझ रहे हो, ये एक सीरीज है, क्या पढ़े हो 12th में आपने, हाँ हाँ, 1 देखो, अब फॉर्मूला से डरने की जरूरत नहीं, दिस इज द ओनली फॉर्मूला विच इज यूज्ड इन दिस इंटायर 35 लेक्चर्स, ठीक है। तो आप ये मत सोचिए कि अरे फॉर्मूला मुझे नहीं आता है, इफ दिस इज अ सीरीज, इसका सम होता है ये 1 upon 1 minus r. Now what we have done is h by 2 plus this square. Now what common we can take, h by 2, सब में है ना, h by 2 we take common, so 1 plus 0.8 by 2 plus 0.8 by 2 square plus, ठीक है, so we can write it h by 2, 1 plus, this is now r, this is r square, so h by 2 1 upon 1 minus this, ठीक है, अब समझ गए, so this will become h by 2 1 upon 1.2 upon 2, है ना, this will be h by 2 into 2 upon 1.2, this will be h upon 1.2, 10 into h by 12, ठीक है, गॉट इट। नाउ न्यूज़पेपर ये कहां से कुछ भी मेरे दिमाग में आया, और हाँ तो आप ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन ब्लेम की नहीं डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसका भी टाइमिंग होता है ना ब्लेम करने का, तो वही तो बोलना कि जब याद आया तभी बोल दी। One by 2, 5h by 3. Now this column is also same. This column is also same. So it will also be equal to 1 by 2, 5h by 3. ठीक है? Now see a second column is just, we have, what we have done is we have just multiplied 0.2 into this. ठीक है? So this we can write 0.2 upon 2, 5h by 3. ठीक है, नाउ यू हैव टू टेल मी द सम ऑफ दिस एंड दिस, फर्स्ट एंड सेकेंड कॉलम का सम बताओ। अब इसमें क्या दिक्कत है भाई, इसमें क्या दिक्कत है? एच आएगा, करके देखो, एच आ रहा, राइट? इन दोनों को आप सम करोगे, एक बार कर लो तो आगे के लिए सही रहेगा। आ रहा है एच? आर यू गेटिंग एच और नॉट? फर्स्ट एंड सेकेंड कॉलम का सम। आ गया? किसका आ गया एच? क्यों आ रहा है एच? क्योंकि सम कर रहे तो आ रहा है, और उसमें क्योंकि क्या? नहीं, ये आंसर नहीं है। अच्छा, यू टेल मी कि इन विच ऑफ द कॉलम्स हार्ड कैश इज प्रेजेंट? मैं पूछ रहा हूं, कॉलम का मैंने नंबर किया है ना, आई एम आस्किंग कि विच ऑफ द कॉलम्स करेंसी इज प्रेजेंट? फर्स्ट, सेकेंड, थर्ड। एक सेकेंड, हार्ड कैश इज प्रेजेंट इन फर्स्ट कॉलम? यस। हार्ड कैश इज प्रेजेंट इन सेकेंड कॉलम? हार्ड कैश इज प्रेजेंट इन थर्ड कॉलम? नो। ये तो केवल स्टेटमेंट था, आप लोग कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं करते। दिस द बैंक रोड कि द पर्सन इज डिपॉजिटेड H/2 बट ही केप्ट दैट कैश हियर। क्या डाउट है बताओ? इसीलिए बोलता हूं कि ध्यान से सुनो। और वो बंदा बार बार जो बैंक के पास गया तो कहां से आ गया? वो बंदा जा रहा है बैंक के पास कि नहीं? ही इज गोइंग टू डिपॉजिट दैट कैश ना। सो these two columns are representing bank. Basically bank is noting down that this person is depositing and then he is putting hard cash here. ठीक है? क्या डाउट है बताओ? एक दिन तो शांत रहो आप लोग। हाँ, गोल्ड अभी है ही नहीं कोई ना। गोल्ड कहां था? दैट पर्सन गेव गोल्ड टू RBI. We have not drawn here RBI. That person gave gold to RBI and RBI gave H to that person. Now RBI is out of this system. The person is dealing with the bank. The person is dealing with the bank. RBI is not in picture. RBI first time created currency note worth rupees H by taking physical gold H. And now RBI is not part of this system. The people is going to bank. And all the transactions are happening between the public and the bank. So cash is present in first column and समझ रहे हो? हाँ, क्या नहीं समझ में आया? लेट आए थे तो किसी ने भी नहीं किया है। कुछ लोग ये सोच के गिव अप करते हैं कि यार मैंने तो कभी किया ही नहीं। ये यही अज्यूम करके पढ़ाया जा रहा है that you have not understood anything. When I have said at least 4-5 times that the person kept physical gold with RBI, RBI printed currency note worth rupees H. आप लोग सुनते नहीं हो क्या ध्यान से? तो ये तो मैंने 4 बार बोल चुका हूं अभी तक। आ रहा समझ में? अब तो डर के बोल दोगे। सो हार्ड कैश अगर समझ में आया तो अगला सारे क्वेश्चन आप लोग को सही करना है, ठीक है? सो हार्ड कैश इज प्रेजेंट इन फर्स्ट कॉलम एंड सेकेंड कॉलम। स्टार्टिंग में व्हाट वाज द हार्ड कैश व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड दिस एग्जांपल? H. Now that H hard cash is present in which column? First and second. That is why the sum of this and this is H. इसलिए इन दोनों का सम जो है एच आ रहा। ठीक है, अब अगला सारा क्वेश्चन आपको सही बताना है। सो मनी सप्लाई will be, this money supply will be equal to the sum of which columns? 1 and 3, hard cash plus what money public has kept in the banks. This is money supply in the economy. Starting में what was the money supply? H. What was the monetary base? What was the monetary base? H. When we started this example, that person gave gold to RBI worth rupees H. RBI gave printed note worth rupees H. So RBI's liability H. Money supply H. From this, and now what is the money supply? Money supply is equal to 5H by 3. What is the monetary base? What is the monetary base? Monetary base? Monetary base? H. ठीक है. So देखो, when you gave gold to RBI, RBI printed rupees H note. So monetary base was earlier H. No transaction happened with RBI, so still monetary base is H. Still RBI's liability is H. So when we started this example, money supply was H, monetary base was H. Now monetary base H, but money supply 5H by 3. This money supply increased. Why it increased? Because of this step. Because of this step, money creation. Because of lending, more money got created in the system. If this person never had gone to the bank, then money would not have got created. When the bank was going to keep full cash in its locker, RBI said ki you can lend. So banks, these two columns are basically, you can say banks. The banks are required to keep only a fraction, 20%. The banks are required to keep only a fraction of the deposits in its locker, in its vault. The banks are required to keep only a fraction of the deposits in their locker. The rest they can lend. This is called fractional reserve banking. The banks are required to keep in their reserve only a fraction of the deposits. The rest they can lend. Then it is called fractional reserve banking. If there would have been full reserve banking, what will be the money supply? H. If full reserve banking हुआ, then money will not be created, money supply will be H. So monetary base is right now H. When we divide this, it comes 5 by 3. From H monetary base earlier, from H monetary base, we have been able to create money supply 5H by 3. So money supply starting में H था, money supply is getting multiplied 5 by 3 times of monetary base. Money supply is getting multiplied 5 by 3 times of monetary base. So with H monetary base, we created money supply 5 by 3 times of H. That is why this ratio is called money multiplier. So in this case, money multiplier is 5 by 3. A monetary base is RBI's liability. देखो आप समझने की कोशिश करो पर ये मॉनेटरी बेस इज आरबीआई लायबिलिटी, दैट मीन्स वॉट एवर करेंसी नोट, ध्यान सुनो अभी लिखो नहीं आप, वॉट एवर करेंसी नोट आरबीआई क्रिएटेड दैट इज मॉनेटरी बेस, एंड इन द स्टार्ट वॉट एवर करेंसी नोट आरबीआई क्रिएटेड दैट इज ऑल्सो मनी सप्लाई, ठीक है। सो इफ आरबीआई क्रिएटेड 100 rupees note and gave it to the public, monetary base 100, money supply 100, but when that public goes to bank, money supply increases. Does hard cash in the economy increases? फिर से सुनो आप ध्यान से, person gave gold and RBI gave rupees 100 note. RBI's liability 100, money supply 100, monetary base 100. When the person goes to bank to deposit money, monetary base remains same, RBI liability remains same. देखो आप अभी समझे नहीं हो, अभी जब क्वेश्चन आगे आएगा तब गलत करोगे तब समझोगे। RBI's liability is the amount of cash created by RBI, उतना ही liability, ठीक। So monetary base 100, RBI gave 100 rupees printed note to the public, so money supply is also 100. But when that public goes to bank and keeps money with bank, bank gave the same money to someone else. Now public is thinking that he has deposited in the bank, but out of the same cash it gave to someone else. So when the bank lent cash to someone else, does hard cash in the system increases? No, hard cash अभी उतना ही है, money supply increases. आपने 100 रुपीज दिया, आपको लगा कि 100 रुपीज बैंक रखा, बैंक के पास 100 है नहीं, वही तो दे दिया उनको, सो वो दे दिया। डज आरबीआई लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज? समझ ही नहीं रहे आप। डज आरबीआई लायबिलिटी इंक्रीज? RBI's liability increased? How? तो डरो नहीं आप, ठीक है। How many of you think RBI's liability increased? हाँ? कोई ऐसा नहीं सोचता है? हाँ? You guess yes. और कोई गेस करता है? हाँ? और किसी को लग रहा है कि हार्ड कैश भी इंक्रीज हुआ? हार्ड कैश नहीं इंक्रीज हो रहा। हार्ड कैश कहाँ इंक्रीज हो रहा? आई केप्ट 100 रुपीज इन बैंक, उसी हार्ड कैश में से 80 रुपीज हार्ड कैश द बैंक गेव टू समवन एल्स, तो हार्ड कैश डिडंट चेंज, हार्ड कैश ओनली आरबीआई कैन क्रिएट। आई केप्ट 100 रुपीज, 80 रुपीज द बैंक गेव टू समवन एल्स, आई एम थिंकिंग दैट आई हैव 100 रुपीज, आई कैन स्टिल स्वाइप अ कार्ड and make purchase of 100 rupees, but hard cash is not with the bank, ठीक है। अब आई होप कि सब लोग समझ गए होंगे। कैसे मैं क्रैश कोर्स में बताऊंगा इसको। सो इस स्टार्टिंग में वी हैड H RBI liability, H monetary base, and H is the hard cash. When the person went to the bank, money supply increases to 5H by 3, and that is why we say that ki from H hard cash we have been able to create money supply 5 by 3H because you went to the bank. So that's why we are saying that ki money supply is getting multiplied 5 by 3 times of monetary base. अब ध्यान से स्टेटमेंट सुनो। सो आरबीआई अंडरस्टैंड्स हियर दैट आरबीआई हैज प्रिंटेड जस्ट हार्ड कैश H, बट मनी सप्लाई इन द इंडियन इकोनॉमी 5H by 3, if RBI wants to increase the money supply, if at this position RBI wants to increase the money supply, if RBI wants to increase the money supply, if RBI prints more money, that means monetary base increases. If H increases, money supply will increase. Yes, increase. If H increases, if this figure is more, money supply is more. If this 5 by 3 increases, then will money supply increase? Yes, of course. So if RBI wants to increase the money supply, it can print more money, it can increase the monetary base itself. Then money supply will increase because of this factor. Because of this factor. But suppose RBI doesn't want to print more money, but it wants to increase money supply, then what it can do? Then it should reduce. If RBI will reduce this factor will increase. This factor will increase because now they will give more lending, so there will be more money supply, this factor increases. So money supply RBI can increase by either reducing the reserve ratio or by printing more money by increasing the monetary base itself. ठीक है, clear है? क्यों आगे भाग रहे हो? समझ जाओगे, हाँ अभी आएंगे हम लोग इस पे. विल कम एंड अंडरस्टैंड दिस इन डिटेल. फिक्स करती है बट चेंज करती रहती है ना टाइम टू टाइम. अभी आते हैं अभी आपको. सो बोर्ड पे देखो एंड आंसर द क्वेश्चन. इफ रिजर्व डिपॉजिट रेशियो डिक्रीजेस, if reserve deposit ratio decreases, then monetary base, it will remain same. Money supply increases. If money supply, if monetary base increases, if monetary base increases, money multiplier, if monetary base increases, if monetary base increases, money multiplier remains same. If monetary base increases means if H increases, this H will increase, it will cancel out. If monetary base increases, money multiplier is not impacted by monetary base, money multiplier is impacted by these two ratios. If more H, if H increases, this will increase, this will cancel out, money multiplier will remain same. Money multiplier depends on these two ratios. ठीक है, समझ गए? Now right now what is the reserve deposit ratio? अभी आज ये तो मैंने एग्जाम्पल, सिंपल एग्जाम्पल के लिए 20% ले लिया ना, बट व्हाट इज द एक्चुअल वैल्यू? 6.25? अरे वो रेपो रेट है. (23.25% है right now RDR. Now I said that कि reserve means that part of the cash which the banks kept with themselves, that which they didn't lend. ठीक है. Now there is a slight variation in the definition. Whatever banks don't lend, whatever they keep with themselves, that is called reserve. But reserves bank can keep with themselves or they can deposit with RBI also. कल आपने देखा ना कि banks keep some money with RBI also. So reserves, either they are free to keep reserves with themselves and RBI also. So both are called reserves of bank. Now this is the total reserve, 23.25%, which RBI has mandated. Out of this, 4% RBI is saying that keep with RBI, which is called CRR, and 19.2%, 5% RBI is saying that you keep with banks themselves, that is called SLR. ठीक है, सो बोथ आर पार्ट ऑफ रिजर्व्स, बोथ हैज डिफरेंट पर्पस, बोथ हैज डिफरेंट पर्पस। ये आप लिखते जाओ। मैंने ये कभी नहीं बोला M3 इज मोस्ट लिक्विड, आई सेड M1 इज मोस्ट लिक्विड। पहले आपने न्यूज़पेपर का इल्जाम लगाया, फिर ये बोल रहा। M1 is more liquid, yeah. Time deposit M3, how it will be more liquid? M0 is basically monetary base only. M0 is monetary base only. Acha, tell me. So SLR banks keep with themselves, ठीक है, and CRR banks keep with RBI. They are bound to keep with RBI. If suppose banks, RBI says that you can keep SLR 0%, that means you are not supposed to keep SLR, ठीक है, then what will happen? Money supply will decrease or increase? Increase होगा. Don't think in terms of money supply. Suppose RBI reduces the SLR limit to 0%, then how it will impact you guys? और कुछ? See, my question is, if banks will not, देखो क्या होता है, forget about these two things. अभी इधर नहीं देखो आप, इधर देखो आप. Suppose forget CRR और SLR, RBI just says to banks कि पूरा डिपॉजिट का you have to keep just 10% with yourself. You have to just keep 10% with yourself. बाकी 90% you can lend. Now, so reserve requirement is 10%. Banks have to keep with themselves. Now you deposited 100 rupees in bank. You deposited 100 rupees in bank. So denominator में we have kept deposit. You deposited 100 rupees and bank, out of the 100 rupees, bank kept rupees 10 as cash and rest 90 it lent. So numerator में there is the cash and denominator में the deposit that you have done. ठीक है? The denominator में it's a statement that you have deposited rupees 100 and numerator में the cash part is there and 90 rupees bank lent. Now this is the situation. How much? Why they have kept? Why the bank has kept 10% of the deposit? Because this is statutory requirement. Now at this point of time, if you immediately rush to the bank and you withdrew 5 rupees, you withdrew 5 rupees, what will be the situation? Your deposits in the bank will reduce to 90. And the cash which the bank was holding, now the cash immediately, just after your withdrawal, the cash will reduce to 9.5. अरे 5 rupees withdraw किया ना, जो पढ़ा रहे हैं वही सोचो, इधर उधर नहीं जाओ आप. I am saying that you withdrew 5 rupees, the cash of the bank will reduce. Now this then, how much bank is supposed to keep? 10% of the deposit, that means 9.5. So how much bank wants extra money? 4.5. So this rupees 4.5 bank will take loan from RBI at repo. So bank has to maintain 10%. तो बैंक को लोन लेना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. यहां से एरो आया, ध्यान रखना. ठीक है. This was the situation और आपके यहाँ कोई रिलेटिव आया और 5 रुपया दे के गया आपको, and you rush to the bank to deposit, immediately your deposit will increase to 105, and immediately the cash with the bank 15. How much bank is supposed to keep? 10% of this, that means 10.5. How much is extra money? 4.5. So rupees 4.5 bank will deposit with RBI at reverse rate. Why bank will not give loan? Why bank will not give loan? अरे भाई कोई आएगा लोन लेने तब ना, बट इमीडिएटली तो दे विल डिपॉजिट एंड अर्न इंटरेस्ट. ऐसे आजकल जबरदस्ती भी दे रहे हैं हम लोग. इमीडिएटली जैसे कैश बढ़ा ना, सो व्हेन समवन विल कम एंड आस्क फॉर लोन, देन द बैंक विल गिव, बट फॉर दैट टाइम, इवन एक दिन के लिए भी ना, द बैंक्स विल डिपॉजिट, दे अर्न इंटरेस्ट. थाउजेंड्स ऑफ करोड़ का मामला है ना, सो इमीडिएटली दे डिपॉजिट विद आरबीआई, रिवर्स रेपो रेट. ये क्लियर हो गया? Now if RBI says here the banks don't need to keep any cash with themselves, that means all lending कर देंगे, तो whenever you will go to ATM or bank you won't get cash. Suppose RBI says कि only 1% reserve रखना है, then it may be possible कि some of the times when you are going to withdraw cash, banks don't, some of the depositors bank is able to return cash, some of the depositors they are not able to reserve cash. So how much cash they should keep? It depends on the bank's day-to-day requirement, but in general RBI has said कि 19.25% रखो. Now 19.25% that the banks keep with themselves, RBI has said, ध्यान सुनते आ रहे हैं कि इससे qualitative questions आते हैं तो आप confuse हो जाते हो. 19.25% that the banks keep with themselves, RBI has said that कि that 19.25% you can keep in 3 forms: gold, cash and government bonds. Why RBI has said this thing? Suppose every bank is keeping, suppose RBI says कि आपको कैश रखना है अपने पास 19.25%. Now in one bank it may be possible that the depositors withdraw very less cash and bank is holding 19.25%, that is idle money, so banks are losing money on that. ठीक है. So RBI said कि depending on your 19.25 RBI fixed, but RBI said to the banks कि depending on your usage and customers withdrawal and deposits, out of that 19.25% you can keep cash and government bonds both plus gold also. So if the bank thinks कि उसका daily का cash withdrawal is less, so it will keep maybe just 2-3% cash, rest it will keep government bonds, purchase government bonds, so that it is able to earn interest also, because the bank has to pay to the depositors. If RBI will say that you keep all in cash form, then the bank won't be able to pay to the depositor. So it has said कि in 3 forms you can keep depending on your day-to-day requirement. So banks का loss भी उतना नहीं होता है, ठीक है, because they can always switch to this government bond. So they keep in any of these 3 forms. ठीक है. Now RBI also says कि हमारे पास रख दो 4%. अब RBI के पास. Why RBI says that कि because RBI has allowed fractional reserve banking. RBI has allowed fractional reserve banking, and RBI has said that if all the people will rush to the banks for withdrawal at the same time, then RBI will help them. So RBI for that purpose also wants 4% with themselves, or in any other eventuality, some crisis, liquidity crisis happen, then RBI has the money to help the bank. But the 4% which the banks keep with RBI, RBI doesn't pay interest on that. See, 4% which the bank keeps with RBI, RBI doesn't pay interest, but on top of 4%, whatever banks keep with RBI, RBI pays reverse repo. So reverse repo rate is paid on the deposit, whatever is above CRR. RBI pays reverse repo rate only on that deposit which is above the deposit of CRR. 4% के ऊपर whatever they keep, then they get reverse repo rate. हाँ. 3 forms.
So in case if we don't find any of
If we don't,
in case if we don't find
we means
bank,
okay.
in case bank for the time being, bank will not be finding any government bonds.
It's not possible. It's not possible as such, because there are enough government bonds. They can always देखो. You kept 100 rupees. Bank kept in cash 19.25 with themselves. 19.25 cash रखा, rest they lent and 4% CRR. Now 19.25% bank is holding with themselves cash. Now it is idle cash. Bank is not earning anything. So what do banks do? Out of some cash, they purchase government bonds. They
In case government bonds are not available, so can
एक second. This is not possible. There is a market where government bonds is being traded every day. The price may change of the government bonds, but you are saying not available, not possible. देखो जैसे देखो, अब आप बोलो कि पोटैटो ओनियन का शॉर्टेज हुआ था 4 years बैक, तो ओनियन नॉट अवेलेबल. डोंट से नॉट अवेलेबल, प्राइसेस वाज 100, अवेलेबल तो उस समय भी था, अवेलेबल उस समय भी था. तो गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड, there are lakhs of crores of government bond being traded in money market, government securities market. You cannot say not available. The prices may fluctuate.
Sir, in that case, in the case of prices fluctuate, so bank don't want to purchase the bonds from the market. It wants to keep that money with the RBI. Is it possible to keep the money with the RBI instead of purchasing the bonds?
See,
Is it mandatory to purchase only in those three forms, or can we keep the money with the RBI in case if
no, 19.25% you have to keep only in 3 forms.
you cannot keep in the RBI?
RBI के पास रखना है तो extra you can keep it with RBI. Extra you can keep it with RBI.
In that case, instead of lending to the customers, we can keep it with the RBI. Because
See, you deposited 100 rupees with bank. You deposited 100 rupees with bank. Bank kept all the 100 rupees. Bank 4% it kept with RBI, 19.25% it kept with themselves. ठीक है, 19.25% it kept with themselves. Rest it is not able to lend, so it deposited with RBI at reverse repo rate. If it is not able to lend, तो क्या करता है बैंक? Bank deposits at reverse repo rate. I think your question is कि the 19.25% the bank is keeping with themselves. Can that also it keep it with RBI? Is it allowed that the banks? Yes, it is allowed. Yes, it is allowed. But government bonds 19.25% जो है, देखो आप समझो एक चीज, पर्पस समझो. It is nowhere it is written that they can't keep. Nowhere it is written that they can't keep it with RBI. But everywhere in wherein RBI classifies them, देखो दोनों, there are 2 reserves. What was the purpose of creating these 2 reserves? One was with whatever we have kept with RBI. The purpose is security and safety of the depositors. Whatever banks are keeping with themselves, that is for the day-to-day requirement of the public. That is day-to-day requirement of the public. When banks keep at reverse repo rate, government bonds get higher interest rate as compared to reverse repo rate. ठीक है, and banks are bound to purchase government bonds. Banks are bound to purchase as such government bonds. So 19.25% banks have to keep with themselves only. उसके बाद they can deposit as such.
if they are unable to lend, then they can.
किसमें हेल्प करेगा? बैंक रन. अभी बैंक रन समझा रहा हूँ, देन आई विल टेल यू कि हेल्प करेगा या नहीं करेगा. ठीक है, अभी बैंक रन डिस्कस करते हैं. अरे मैंने बोला कि फॉरगेट अबाउट दिस, लेट्स टेक अनदर एग्जांपल. जस्ट रिजर्व्स का कॉन्सेप्ट समझाने के लिए मैंने बोला. नाउ वी हैव 2 रिजर्व्स. रिजर्व्स का पर्पस मैं समझा रहा था कि इफ द बैंक्स आर कीपिंग दिस रिजर्व्स. नाउ वी हैव सेपरेटेड दीस 2 रिजर्व्स. SLR banks are required to keep with themselves. समझ गए आप ये? Right? If banks are not able to lend, and banks are, you are saying कि banks are keeping money with RBI. हाँ, so क्या problem आएगा? देखो रिवर्स रेपो रेट, लेंडिंग रेट, ये सारा कुछ इंटरलिंक्ड है, ठीक है। कैसे इंटरलिंक्ड है? एंड दे ऑल ऑलवेज मूव इन द सेम डायरेक्शन। ये कॉन्सेप्ट आप समझ लोगे, देन यू विल नॉट आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन। तो पहले आप वो समझ लो कि कैसे ये सारा कुछ लिंक्ड है, ठीक है। देन ऑटोमेटिकली दिस डाउट विल बी क्लैरिफाइड। व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज कि बैंक्स कैन ऑलवेज कीप देयर मनी। ध्यान से सुनना, 19.25 they kept with themselves, 4% they kept with RBI. Whatever is left, कितना बचा? 76.75. Whatever is left, either they can lend or they can keep it with RBI. Either they can keep it with RBI, but the RBI rate, reverse repo rate, is less as compared to whatever banks are offering to the depositors. That is why they never want to keep their money with RBI. They always want to lend at a higher rate than the deposit rate. But in case of a situation where they are not able to lend some part of the money, so rather than keeping it in cash form, let's keep in RBI and earn at least reverse repo rate. ये मैकेनिज्म कैसे होता है अभी आप में भी कल के क्लास में समझ जाओगे कि कौन सा रेट कैसे लिंक्ड है, कैसे इंक्रीज डिक्रीज हो। If a bank goes bankrupt, when a bank will be declared bankrupt?
When it doesn't have money.
When it doesn't have money to pay to the creditors. If a bank is declared bankrupt, will RBI come to the rescue of the banks? No. No. Huh? If a bank is declared bankrupt, RBI will not protect that bank. गवर्नमेंट की मर्जी है, ठीक है। RBI doesn't protect a bankrupt bank. What RBI does is, देखो, there is a difference between bankruptcy and bank run. बैंक रन हम किसको बोलते हैं? ध्यान से सुना, बैंक रन हम किसको बोलते हैं? If the bank is highly profitable, bank has enough assets, but reserves they keep 23.25, 19.25% with themselves. If there is a rumor that Axis Bank is going bankrupt, every customer of Axis Bank will rush to the bank and they will try to withdraw cash, and the bank may not be able to give cash, right? But bank has enough financial other assets. Bank is highly profitable, but bank was not able to give cash. This is a situation of bank run. It is not a situation of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy मतलब बैंक के पास पैसा ही नहीं बचा, in any other form asset that उसको बेच के भी दे. So this is a case of bank run where everyone has rushed to the bank withdrawing their deposit. Banks has enough other assets, financial assets, but it doesn't have that much cash because they need to keep only 19.25%. This is the situation of bank run. In bank run, RBI comes to the protection of banks acting as lender of last resort. But if a bank went bankrupt, then RBI will not come to the protection. RBI takes several measures. RBI regulates in various ways to the banks. RBI takes several measures so that a bank doesn't go into bankruptcy. But once it is declared bankrupt, then RBI will not come to the protection. So RBI takes several measures, prompt corrective action, जब ये आपने देखा restructuring and other things, so that a bank doesn't fall into bankruptcy. But if a bank, because of its inefficient operations, losses, if it went bankrupt, then RBI will not come to the protection. Whatever the depositors have deposited in the bank, they will get rupees 1 lakh, every depositor. At least, so if the bank went bankrupt, all the assets of the bank were sold or 0 rupees was generated, then at least depositors will get rupees 1 lakh. If the assets are sold and more money generated, they will get something more also, but at least RBI guarantees that you will get at least rupees 1 lakh every depositor. ठीक है भाई, कोई बैंक अपनी इनएफिशिएंट की वजह से बैंकरप्ट हो गया, why RBI will come to the protection? So RBI takes measures that the bank don't fall into bankruptcy, but once it declared bankrupt, then RBI will not give its own money.
So, but this situation, 1 lakh is used many times. Like if someone
पिछले साल बहुत highlighted था, हाँ, FRDI bill.
like deposit 10 crore and he gets 1 lakh, so how could it?
So don't deposit. But it's, you try to understand, it's a kind of company. It's a kind of company. You have kept money. That if that institution goes bankrupt, then you are gone. You kept money in a company as a bondholder. If the company goes bankrupt, okay. Great question. तो इससे बेटर तुम ये पूछ रहे थे कि सर आई डिपॉजिटेड 1 रुपीज, 0 बैलेंस अकाउंट, विल आई गेट? मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी, जब कोई र्यूमर स्प्रेड करता है, हाँ उसका आरबीआई एटलीस्ट 1 लाख देगी. सीआरआर भी आरबीआई विल गिव दैट, आल्सो आरबीआई विल गिव. इट्स बिकॉज पब्लिक्स मनी ओनली. क्या चीज? अब वो एग्जैक्टली बैंक रन हुआ या नहीं हुआ. बैंक रन मीन्स द बैंक इज नॉट एबल टू डिस्पेंस कैश टू इट्स डिपॉजिटर्स. अब वो आंध्र प्रदेश नहीं, एटीएम में पैसा कोई गड़बड़ी आ गई, हाँ तो आई डोंट नो दैट इंफॉर्मेशन कि आंध्र प्रदेश में लोग गए ब्रांच में और पैसा उनको नहीं मिल पा रहा था. हाँ एक ब्रांच में गए, कभी आप जाओ यहाँ भी देमे से कि अभी पैसा नहीं है, बट इट्स नॉट सिचुएशन ऑफ बैंक रन. बैंक रन मीन्स ओवरऑल इंडिया लेवल पे बैंक्स डोंट हैव द कैश टू डिस्पेंस टू इट्स डिपॉजिटर्स. एक ब्रांच में गए आप कैश नहीं, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि बैंक रन सिचुएशन. हाँ किसी पर्टिकुलर स्टेट में, किसी पर्टिकुलर ब्रांच में अगर ऐसी प्रॉब्लम आती है, इट इज नॉट बैंक रन. बैंक रन परवेजिव सिचुएशन होती है वेयर द ओवरऑल बैंक doesn't have the cash to give it to its depositors. The bank overall doesn't have the cash to give its depositors. और CRR नहीं, बट SLR तो एग्जॉस्ट हो गया, तभी तो SLR तो एग्जॉस्ट हो गया. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी, एक स्टेटमेंट लिखो. It is the policy through which Monetary Authority of India, it is the policy through which Monetary Authority of India, that is RBI, controls money creation. It is the policy through which Monetary Authority of India controls money creation and supply. It is the policy through which Monetary Authority of India controls money creation and supply. Full stop. The primary objective of monetary policy is price stability. The primary objective of monetary policy is price stability, while keeping in mind economic growth. While keeping in mind economic growth. While keeping in mind economic growth. ये स्टेटमेंट अभी हम लोग समझेंगे थोड़ी देर में, 1-2 दिन बाद समझ जाओगे. The following are the tools of monetary policy. Huh? देखो यहाँ मैं एसआर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड में ज्वाइन किया हूँ फुल फ्लेज। अब ऐसा तो नहीं कुछ लेके भाग जाऊंगा यहाँ से, उसकी आप टेंशन छोड़ दो, मैं पढ़ा रहा हूँ स्टेप बाय स्टेप ना, आप बस समझते जाओ। नहीं हुआ ना, अभी चल रहा है ना, अभी ये मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी सब चल रहा है, उसमें एक एक सब टॉपिक्स है बेसिकली, आप बस समझते जाओ, ठीक है। जब पूरा कोर्स फिनिश हो जाएगा तब सोचना कि क्या हुआ या क्या नहीं हुआ, अभी तो आप समझते जाओ। लेक्चर प्लान मिला है आपको? क्यों नहीं मिला? आप लोग को मिला ही नहीं मिला लेक्चर प्लान, है ना? सो वी आर मूविंग एज पर द नेक्स्ट लेक्चर प्लान। ज्यादा जिंदगी में टेंशन नहीं लिया करो। क्या लिखा आपने? द फॉलोइंग आर द टूल्स ऑफ मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी। द फॉलोइंग आर द टूल्स ऑफ मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी। फर्स्ट रेपो रेट, कॉमा, बैंक रेट, कॉमा, MSF रेट, कॉमा, रिवर्स रेपो रेट। ठीक है। नाउ यू राइट द डेफिनेशन ऑफ रेपो रेट, इसी में लिखना है, फर्स्ट टूल है, यू राइट द डेफिनेशन ऑफ रेपो रेट। इट इज द रेट एट विच banks take loan from RBI. It is the rate at which banks take loan from RBI for short term, from RBI for short term, bracket में less than 1 month, less than 1 month, करोड़ तुम्हारे दिमाग में घूम रहा है। लेस देन 1 month इन केस ऑफ शॉर्टेज ऑफ रिजर्व्स, so it is the rate at which banks take loan from RBI for short term in case of shortage of reserves. It is also called policy rate. पहले 2-3 टर्म लिख लो आप, तब हम लोग इसको समझेंगे। देन यू राइट MSF रेट, मार्जिनल स्टैंडिंग फैसिलिटी रेट, MSF रेट। इट इज द रेट एट विच बैंक्स टेक लोन फ्रॉम RBI. It is the rate at which banks take loan from RBI in case of emergency situations. For overnight purpose. Then you write bank rate. It is the rate at which banks take loan from RBI. For long term. It is the rate at which banks take loan from RBI for long term in case of shortage of reserves. देखो जो लोग यहाँ कॉन्सेंट्रेट कर रहे हैं, आई होप कि उनको घर पे एफर्ट बहुत कम लगाना पड़ता होगा, है ना? बैंक रेट में एक चीज और लिख लो आप, एक 1 लाइन। Now this rate is not used for lending purpose. it is just used for penal purpose. It is just used for penal purpose. Penal purpose means to impose penalty. To impose penalty means RBI बोलता है कि if your reserves are less than SLR limit, then you'll have to pay interest at bank rate plus 3%, bank rate plus 4%. So bank rate is used to impose penalty, but now RBI has stopped giving loan to banks for long term. It just gives loan for short term for in case of shortage of reserves. तो practically इस rate का बहुत use नहीं है. इधर बोर्ड पे देखो आप, these three rates are for lending purpose. RBI lends, and this rate is banks lend to RBI. ठीक है, and now this is not practically used for lending purpose. Only these two are used. This is for one night. This is for less than 1 month. So earlier it was only repo rate. Now RBI introduced MSF rate. RBI introduced MSF rate, just an extra lending facility, but only for overnight. And when RBI lends, there is a limit that how much RBI will lend. ऐसा नहीं कि whatever amount banks want, they will lend. No, there is a limit, and that limit is expressed in terms of what is the deposits of the bank. That you don't need to remember. जितना deposit है उसका some percent banks can borrow from RBI. जैसे at repo rate, banks can borrow only 0.25% of the total their deposits. MSF rate पे they can borrow 2%. But don't need to remember all this. You just need to remember that banks take loan from RBI at these rates, but how much they can take loan, there are restrictions. All these rates are called liquidity adjustment facility. Liquidity, इसको change करके RBI is trying to adjust the liquidity in the economy. Second tool. तो बैंक रेट तो अब लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट के लिए यूज नहीं होता है सच, बट रेपो, एमएसएफ एंड रिवर्स रेपो रेट, इट इज यूज फॉर टू इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज द लिक्विडिटी मनी सप्लाई इन द इकोनॉमी. ठीक है, सो इफ आरबीआई इंक्रीजेज द रेपो रेट, मनी सप्लाई, देखो when RBI increases the repo rate, money supply decreases. Okay, when RBI increases the repo rate, market interest rate increases, and people find it costly to borrow. They reduce their borrowing, so money supply decreases. Because money supply or money gets created through lending. So when the lending rate increases, money creation happens less. And when RBI increases the repo rate, banks' lending rate also increases. Why it increases, that we'll understand tomorrow. It's a complex mechanism, but हम लोग कल समझेंगे. Second tool, open market operation. Open market operation. ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशन. सब्सिडियरीज समझते हो? सब्सिडियरीज, इफ एसआर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड का प्रॉफिट बहुत बढ़ रहा है एंड एसआर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड क्रिएटेड अ न्यू कंपनी, हम तो ऑलरेडी है ना, एक्वायर करेगी. ये आपकी इच्छा है कि आपको लगता है करेगी? हाँ, अच्छा, आप लोग ये जोक भी एक्सपेक्ट करते हो क्या 2.5 घंटे की क्लास में? हाँ, नहीं आप, और अब मैं आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस को मैच नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ ऐसा। When I am saying कि SR Private Limited created a subsidiary, then you should have told a new company. Maybe उनके डॉटर का नाम लेके कोई नई कंपनी आप क्रिएट कर देते, ठीक है, तब ये जो अब वाजीराम इज ऑलरेडी एस्टेब्लिश्ड कंपनी। आई एम सेइंग इसका मतलब आप कॉन्सेप्ट सब्सिडी का समझे ही नहीं। छोड़ो ऐसा प्राइवेट। सो विवेक क्रिएटेड अ कंपनी, ठीक है, XYZ प्राइवेट लिमिटेड। ये कौन सी कंपनी आप तो समझ ही रहे होंगे। समझ रहे हो ना कौन सी कंपनी? हाँ। Now this company is profitable. Now this profit the company can pay back to the owners. This profit the company can pay back to the owners, or with this profit the company can create another company. Now this company is owned by XYZ. This is ABC Private Limited. So this company is owning this company. Then we say that this is a subsidiary of this. ABC is a subsidiary of XYZ. Till the time XYZ is owning more than 51%, then we will call that ABC is subsidiary of XYZ. But if XYZ's ownership reduces below 50%, then we can't say. ठीक है, तो subsidiary आप समझते हो? होल्डिंग कंपनी ये नहीं है। होल्डिंग कंपनी का और कॉन्सेप्ट है, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के बाद बता देंगे आपको। तो ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशन में व्हाट हैपेंस, ऐसे गवर्नमेंट, और सपोज आई एम आरबीआई एंड यू आर द जनरल पब्लिक, नाउ द मनी विथ आरबीआई इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ मनी सप्लाई, ठीक है। सो यू हैव मनी एंड यू आर चेजिंग द आउटपुट। If RBI purchases your money and gives you bonds, whose bonds? Government bonds. RBI is holding government, RBI is having government bonds. So it sold government bonds to you and it took the money out of it. Money supply in the economy decreased because government bonds are not part of money supply. It sold the bonds, it took the money, so money supply decreased. If it sells the bonds, money supply decreases. If it purchases bonds from you, it will have to pay money, money supply increases. This operation is called open market operation. This operation is called open market operation. Now government of India, when it wants money, it issues bonds. It issues bonds to some institutions. There are some financial institutions, it issues bonds and it gets the money. These institutions then sells the bonds to RBI, individuals, banks, financial institutions. So in RBI, these are primary dealers. Primary जो institutions होते हैं ना, those institutions, financial institutions, which can purchase government bonds directly from government. They are called primary dealers. They are banks only. They are normal financial institutions only, but they have been authorized by RBI that you can purchase government bonds in the primary market. This is primary market. When government is issuing the bonds for the first time and they are paying money, it is primary market. They got the government bonds, now they started buying and selling among themselves. This is secondary market. So now they can buy and sell. Now they all are trading. If RBI will sell more bonds, now RBI will also get the bonds. If RBI will sell more bonds, it will take the money out of the system. Money supply decreases. So open market operation, what happens? Open market operation is in primary market or secondary market? Secondary market, where RBI is buying and selling government bonds. Sale or purchase of government securities, sale or purchase of government securities by RBI in the open market sale and purchase of government securities by RBI in the open market to increase or decrease the money supply is called open market operation. ठीक है. Then third tool, sterilization. Third tool में you write sterilization or market stabilization scheme, MSS, market stabilization scheme. MSS का नाम सुना किसी ने? नहीं. किसी ने नहीं सुना MSS का नाम? Market stabilization scheme. See, if a lot of foreign investors are coming in, what happens? If a lot of foreign investors are coming in, they give dollars to RBI and RBI gives them rupee notes. RBI will have to print rupee notes. Na? So, if a lot of foreign investors are coming into Indian market, money supply will increase. If they are running out of India, money supply will decrease because they will give rupee and they will take dollars. So, see, सही बोले, सही बोले हैं. If she is a foreign investor, she sold her business to you, she got rupee notes. This rupee note she gave it to RBI and RBI gave her dollars. So your rupee note came to RBI, money supply decreased. So when investors come, money supply increases. When investors go, money supply decreases. So if a lot of investors are coming, money supply is increasing, it can lead to inflation. So when a lot of investors are coming in, money supply is increasing, inflation is increasing, then RBI sells government bonds to you and takes out that money. Once more. Once more or one more time? When a lot of investors are coming in, they are coming with dollars, they are giving dollars to RBI, RBI is printing rupee notes. ये transaction समझ रहे हो ना? Asset liability का that we discussed yesterday. So when foreign investors are coming, they are coming with dollars, they are giving dollars to RBI, RBI is giving extra rupee notes. Money supply is increasing. When they are going out, they are selling their business, they are getting rupees. Rupees. आप लोग जंप करते हो ना, इसलिए कंफ्यूज कर जाते हो. ठीक है. I said कि she is a foreign investor, इनका business है इंडिया में. She will sell and return. When she will sell her business to anyone here, she will get rupees. And this rupee was of an Indian system. Now this rupee she gives it to RBI. So the rupee from the Indian system came to RBI and RBI gave dollars. Money supply in India decreased. So if because of foreign investors coming in and going out and money supply in the Indian economy is increasing or decreasing, then again RBI does open market operations, sale or purchase of government bonds. But in that case, that open market operation is called sterilization or market stabilization scheme. Sterilization is a general standard term of economy. In India's situation, we have called it market stabilization scheme. Basically, what we are trying to do is we are stabilizing the Indian market because of the fluctuations caused by the external shocks. Sterilization में आप लिख लो, sale or purchase of government securities, sale and purchase of government securities by RBI in the open market. Sale and purchase of government securities by RBI in the open market to keep the stock of money supply unchanged. Sale and purchase of government securities by RBI in the open market to keep the stock of money supply unchanged is called sterilize. ठीक है? In this case, RBI sterilizes the Indian economy from external shocks. In this case, RBI sterilizes मतलब समझते हो ना, prevents. In this case, RBI sterilizes the Indian economy from external shocks.
Very similar to maintaining the volatility of exchange rate, nominal exchange rate.
Exchange rate में the target variable is that rate. Here the target variable is that money in the system.
Yes, sir, but RBI does act similar to that.
You can relate, yes. Fourth tool, last tool, reserve requirements. Reserve requirements. अच्छा, ये ऑनेस्टली बताओ, जैसे अभी तो फेब चल रहा है, ठीक है, ये जुलाई ऑनवर्ड्स आप लोग कोई इकोनॉमी की बुक नहीं पढ़े? हाँ, न्यूज़पेपर पढ़े? तो लिखो नहीं यार. Reserve requirements. There are two parts, CRR and SLR. CRR, you write CRR, cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio. The amount of cash that the banks are required to keep with RBI. The amount of cash that the banks are required to keep with RBI with respect to their. The amount of cash that the banks are required to keep with RBI with respect to their net demand and time liabilities. With respect to their net demand and time liabilities is called cash reserve ratio. Net demand and time liabilities is called cash reserve ratio. And SLR में you write the amount of reserves that the banks are required, the amount of reserves that the banks are required to keep with themselves, in the form of cash, comma gold, in the form of cash, comma gold, comma government securities, cash, comma gold, comma government securities with respect to their net demand and time liabilities. The amount of reserves that the banks are required to keep with themselves in the form of cash, gold, government securities with respect to their net demand and time liabilities is called statutory liquidity ratio. ठीक है, तो तीनों फॉर्म में हो सकता है. सी है, डिपॉजिट्स ऑफ पब्लिक का कुछ पार्ट रखना है एसएलआर एंड सीआरआर, है ना. नाउ डिपॉजिट्स ऑफ पब्लिक इज बेसिकली कॉल्ड, deposits of public is the liability of the banks. So if you have kept money in deposit, demand form, demand liability, time form, time liability, or total deposit of public is net demand and time liability of the banks. So right now what is the present statutory reserve requirement? Huh? Right now presently what is the statutory reserve requirement? इसीलिए क्वेश्चन गलत कर देते हो ना. मैं क्या पूछ रहा हूँ, सुनो, मैं पूछ रहा हूँ स्टैट्यूटरी रिजर्व रिक्वायरमेंट, दैट मीन्स लीगल रिजर्व रिक्वायरमेंट, दैट इज 23.25. उसमें स्टैट्यूटरी लिक्विडिटी रेशियो इज 19.25. एसएलआर इज स्टैट्यूटरी लिक्विडिटी रेशियो. If someone asks that what is the total reserve requirement, what is the legal reserve requirement, statutory reserve requirement, that is 19.25. Statutory reserve requirement that is 23.25, क्योंकि CRR and SLR both are legal reserve requirement, और वो SLR है वो statutory liquidity ratio है वो. monetary policy can be of two types, expansionary and अच्छा, by the way, out of the four tools, which tool RBI is using most frequently? Repo rate. ठीक है. In expansionary monetary policy, RBI tries to expand the demand in the economy by expanding the money supply. By money supply ज़्यादा होगा तो demand will also be more. So in expansionary policy, RBI tries to expand the demand in the economy by increasing the money supply, and to increase the money supply, RBI reduces the repo rate. To contract the economy, to reduce the demand, RBI increases the repo rate. This is also called dovish policy. This is also called accommodative policy or easy money policy. And this is also called hawkish policy. ठीक है. Now this, right now we are following inflation targeting, we say that. ठीक है, inflation targeting. तो ये तो simple है सर. Feb 2015. Before Feb 2015, RBI's monetary policy had two objectives. Before Feb 2015, RBI's monetary policy had two objectives. First was price stability, and the second was economic growth. Two parallel objectives. If the inflation is high, then to reduce the inflation, RBI should increase the repo rate. So to achieve the price stability objective, if the inflation is increasing, then what should RBI do? RBI should reduce the money supply. To reduce the money supply, RBI should increase the repo rate. So to achieve this objective, RBI increases the repo rate. But when RBI increases the repo rate in the market, interest rate increases. In the market, interest rate increases, and when the interest rate increases, growth gets impacted. Because growth happens when the companies borrow money and set a fact. So RBI was given two objectives. When it was following this objective was getting compromised. ठीक है. So now RBI has been assigned only one objective, price stability, and that too government has said ki keep it between which index? CPI combined 2 to 6.1. Now RBI has been given an inflation target. Who has given this target? Government of India in consultation with RBI has decided this target. To keep the inflation in this range, what should be the repo rate? That is decided by a monetary policy committee. 6 members, 3 from RBI, 3 appointed by government. Governor is also a member who has a casting vote. In case of tie-up, he gets an extra vote. समझ गए? So repo rate is decided by monetary policy committee. So monetary policy committee tries to keep the repo rate such that the CPI is in between this range. So this is decided by government, and repo rate is decided by the monetary policy committee. ठीक है. और फिलहाल जो इसमें मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी में एक मेंबर है, he has taught me economics. ठीक है, जो हम आपको पढ़ा रहे हैं इसमें से उन्होंने कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ाया ऐसा, ही टॉट समथिंग हायर फंडाज, जो कि ऑप्शनल में पूछा जाता है। समझ गए मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी? सो राइट नाउ गवर्नमेंट हैज, आरबीआई हैज बीन गिवन ओनली दिस ऑब्जेक्टिव। रविंद्र ढोलकिया, हाँ रविंद्र ढोलकिया, वो 6th पे कमीशन में भी थे पहले। प्राइस स्टेबिलिटी, नाउ दिस इज द ऑब्जेक्टिव, बट व्हाइल दिस टाइम तो आरबीआई हैज बीन गिवन ओनली वन ऑब्जेक्टिव, but government has wrote that statement very perfectly, we should say. So now what that statement says is monetary policy objective is, primary objective of monetary policy is price stability while keeping in mind economic growth. मतलब अब आपका objective ये है, but don't forget the growth. The reason is, see, if this objective is achieved, suppose the inflation is 3%, 4%. If this objective is achieved, then think of the growth also. That means if this objective is achieved and growth is less, then try to reduce the repo rate, which Shaktikant Das has done this time. तो इस बार हमने रेपो रेट रिड्यूस किया है टू सपोर्ट ग्रोथ, जो while keeping in mind economic growth बोला है, because this objective is already achieved. Inflation, the previous data was 2%, 3%. So if this is high, RBI will never think of growth, it will try to achieve this objective because this is the mandate. But if it is already achieved, then RBI should not forget the growth also, it should think of the growth also. And if the inflation is below this or above this for 3 consecutive quarters, then RBI will be assumed that it has failed in its target and it will have to give a written reply to the government. ठीक है, तो चेंज करने का जो पर्पज ये था कि ये दोनों ऑब्जेक्टिव थे, द टूल विच दे वर यूजिंग, व्हेन दे वर यूजिंग वन टूल द अदर ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज गेटिंग कॉम्प्रोमाइज, एंड व्हेन दे आर ट्राइंग टू अचीव दिस, दैट ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज गेटिंग कॉम्प्रोमाइज. सो नाउ इट हैज बीन गिवन वन ऑब्जेक्टिव. क्या नेक्स्ट टॉपिक? ट्वेंटी मिनट्स में तो होगा नहीं, क्या किया जाए? हाँ, बेस रेट MCLR. चलो लेट्स ट्राई, मे बी 5-10 मिनट एक्सटेंड होगा. एकदम फुल कंसंट्रेशन से देखोगे तो 20 मिनट्स में हो जाएगा, अगर रिपीट नहीं करना पड़ेगा. बेस रेट एंड MCLR. दिस इज अ बैंक, you deposit money in bank, suppose the public deposited at 10%, deposit rate 10%, then what will be the minimum lending rate of the bank? Minimum lending rate क्या हो सकता है? At least 10%, more than 10%, ठीक है. At least 10%. By that same logic, if RBI asks this bank that you keep reserve with RBI, on which RBI is not paying interest, if the reserve requirement with RBI is 50%, what will be the minimum lending rate? उधर देखो, what will be the minimum lending rate? RBI not paying interest, what will be the minimum lending rate? What will be the minimum lending rate? At least 20%. यार देखो, बैंक पब्लिक डिपॉजिटेड at 10%. तो मिनिमम लेंडिंग रेट 10% था. बट इफ द आरबीआई इज सेइंग कि वॉट एवर इज द डिपॉजिट 50% यहां रख दो, ऑन विच आरबीआई इज नॉट पेइंग एनीथिंग, सो द बैंक विल हैव टू, नाउ द बैंक विल बी एबल टू लेंड ओनली हाफ. सपोज द पब्लिक डिपॉजिटेड ₹100. Now how much bank can lend when it is keeping 50% here? It can lend only 50 rupees, and when it is lending 50 rupees, it has to pay 10%, rupees 10, it will have to charge 20%. ठीक है ना? It will have to charge 20%, 20% of rupees 50, and it will pay 10 rupees. So when RBI increases the reserve requirement, lending rate increases. When deposit rate increases, lending rate increases. When reserve requirement increases, lending rate increases. When banks operational cost increases, lending rate increases. When banks want to earn more profit, the lending rate increases. So lending rate depends on 4 factors: deposit rate, reserve requirement, operational cost and profit margin. Base rate का definition लिखो. It is the minimum lending rate. It is the minimum lending rate below which banks can't lend. It is the minimum lending rate below which banks can't lend. It depends on deposit rate, the reserve requirement, operational cost, profit margin. ठीक है? तो डिपॉजिट रेट जो है, एट व्हाट रेट बैंक इज गेटिंग द फंड्स? 10%. बैंक इज गेटिंग द फंड्स at 10%, so we call here as cost of funds for the bank is 10%. इधर देखो आप ध्यान से, if RBI says to the bank that you keep 50% with RBI, then bank will be able to lend only ₹50. Bank will be able to lend only ₹50 and it has to pay ₹10. So when RBI is asking bank to keep reserves, बैंक्स कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड्स इज इंक्रीजिंग. कैसे इंक्रीज हो रहा देखो अभी आप. टू हैव 100 rupees for lending when it was not required, to have 100 rupees for lending, bank was accepting 100 rupees and paying ₹10. So to have 100 rupees for lending, banks was paying ₹10. So 10%. Now to have 50 rupees of lending, banks has to accept ₹100 and pay ₹10. So to have 50 rupees of lending, to have 50 rupees for lending, they are paying ₹10, which is 20% of this amount. So in a way, when the banks are asked to keep reserves, their cost of fund is increasing. Their cost of funds is increasing. क्योंकि now they are getting just 50 rupees. Since 50 rupees यहाँ रखना, they have just 50 rupees of funds available to lend, और 50 rupees का funds के लिए how much they are paying? ₹10. So in a way, the cost of funds is double. ये समझ गए आप? Now when RBI increases the repo rate, why lending rate increases? जो भी आज तक अभी आप समझे हो, गलत समझे हो ये चीज खास करके, बिकॉज ये कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं क्लियर किया था कभी. मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल हैव नॉट अंडरस्टूड दिस कॉन्सेप्ट. थोड़ा टेक्निकल है, बट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस थोड़ा पेशेंस के साथ. ठीक है? कि व्हेन आरबीआई, आप लोग यही पढ़े कि व्हेन आरबीआई इंक्रीजेज द रेपो रेट, बैंक्स लेंडिंग रेट इंक्रीजेज, क्योंकि बैंक्स के लिए कॉस्टली पड़ता है ना रेपो रेट. This is not exactly true. This is RBI. banks keep money at reverse repo, which is right now 6%. Banks take loan at repo. And this is also bank take deposit. ठीक है. Now in between there is a money market. एकदम concentrate करके सुनना क्योंकि repeat करने का time नहीं है. So this is a market where banks, RBI, financial institute companies are trading. They are buying and selling money by giving debt papers. ठीक है? Less than 1 year maturity. Axis, ICICI. Suppose instantly Axis Bank wants money. जरूरत पड़ गई. Now Axis Bank wants money. It can borrow at repo rate only to a certain extent, 0.25% of the deposit. Now suppose that limit has reached 0.2%, 0.25% of the deposit तो बहुत कम होता है ना. If 100 crore is the deposit, they can just borrow 25 lakh. So suppose that limit has reached. Now Axis Bank wants money. ICICI Bank has enough money. Now if ICICI Bank has enough money, when someone will ask for loan project, then ICICI Bank will give. But suppose right now they have enough money and they want money. If ICICI Bank has enough money, they can put at reverse repo rate at 6%. But they can always lend at more than 6%. So Axis Bank wanted 100 crore, ICICI Bank 100 crore, and Axis Bank gave a debt paper. Axis Bank 100 crore at 6 point maybe 2%. ये 0.2 0.1 नहीं बहुत मैटर करता है. Thousands of crores of money are involved. ठीक है, ये पॉसिबल है. See, try to understand. ये money market less than 1 year. For a bank, money is available here also in money market. For the bank, money is available from the depositors also. When repo rate is reduced and banks have enough competition, every banks का सारे banks का FD rate same है या different होता है? Different होता है. Why different? Competition है to attract the depositors. They increase or decrease this deposit rate. Competition है customers को attract. जैसे यहाँ भी competition था तो we have decreased the. If repo rate reduces, reverse repo rate increase होता है decrease होता है? If repo rate decreases, reverse repo rate decrease करेगा. If this decreases, this decreases. If this decreases, the rate here will also decrease. Will? देखा ना आपने यहाँ पे 6%. If this decreases, the rate here also will decrease. If here the rate decreases, that means if Axis Bank can get money at a cheaper rate, why it will offer a very high rate to the depositor? Right? Bank is raising money from here also. Bank is raising money from here also. If here the money is available at a very cheaper rate, they will not give very high rate to the depositor. These all market are interlinked basically. Money can be raised here also, money can be raised here also. If this rate is decreasing, this rate decreases, this rate decreases, deposit rate also decreases, and then lending rate decreases. If this rate increases, this rate increases, this rate increase, क्योंकि ये 6% से ऊपर जाएगा, this rate increases. When this rate increases, that means ICICI Bank can lend at a higher rate. When ICICI Bank can earn higher rate, it can always offer more to the depositors and can attract more depositors. So this also increases. All rates are interlinked, all move in the same direction. So when RBI changes the repo rate, reverse repo rate changes, this money market rate this money market rate changes, this rate changes, then this rate changes. This is called transmission of repo rate into lending rate. This is the transmission of repo rate into lending rate. ठीक है, कोई डाउट है तो आप पूछ सकते हो।
आरबीआई बाउंड नहीं करेगा कि हमारे थ्रू होके ही आप लोन लो टू एक्सेस दैट?
RBI never ever gives loan for lending. It always gives loan only in case of shortage of reserves. Lending, आप समझो, सुनो, lending के लिए कभी लोन नहीं देता। For example, what is right now the deposit rate approximately FD पे? हाँ, चलो he is saying 6 point, minimum 6.5 तो मिल जा रहा है। He is saying 6.5 FD पे है, ठीक है। If RBI is giving loan at repo rate, why banks will accept at 6.5 FD? उसमें भी कस्टमर का चेक अकाउंट ओपन ब्ला ब्ला, they will always take at 6.25 and they can lend. RBI lends only in case of shortage of reserves, not for lending to Reliance and Adani. Lending के लिए प्रोजेक्ट ऐसे नहीं देता है, shortage of reserves में बैंक, RBI is the regulator. Try to understand, all this lending happens through this route or through this route. RBI is a regulatory body. It is increasing or decreasing the repo rate to have this transmission rather than it is giving loan to the bank so that they can. ठीक है, इस पे आप थोड़ा और सोच लेना, डाउट होगा तो आई विल अगेन एक्सप्लेन। हाँ, they are not legally bound. They are not legally bound. अब फार्मर का कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ेगा तो यहाँ पे प्राइसेस बढ़ेगी, बट आर दे लीगली बाउंड टू इंक्रीज? नहीं। सो दिस इज ए मार्केट फिनोमेना, कॉम्पिटिशन इज देयर, सो व्हेन आरबीआई चेंजेस दिस हैपेंस, और समटाइम्स कभी कभी नहीं भी होता है। वो कब नहीं होता, आई विल टेल यू। सो दिस इज कुछ और पूछ लिए होते आप भाई। रेपो रेट और रिवर्स, डिमोटिवेट हो गया मैं, कोई बात नहीं। रेपो रेट रिवर्स रेपो रेट में 0.25 का डिफरेंस था ना। फॉर्मूला देखो, आपने लिखा है, क्लास के बाद पूछ लेना आप फिर। वो तो 0.25 का डिफरेंस है। दे विल ऑलवेज मूव इन द सेम डायरेक्शन विद अ गैप। अच्छा, अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है, अभी 2 मिनट और रुको आप, और छोड़ो, उसमें 10-15 मिनट और लग जाएगा आपका। सो यू अंडरस्टूड दिस बेस रेट, यू अंडरस्टूड दिस ट्रांसमिशन, बट वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस। ठीक है, थोड़ा सा और टेक्निकल है तो हम लोग इसको कल समझ लेंगे। दिस इज कॉल्ड ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ रेपो रेट इनटू लेंडिंग रेट। why RBI changes the repo rate? For this transmission to have, when RBI tries to increase or think of the growth aspect, then RBI reduces the repo rate, and then through this mechanism lending rate reduces. When lending rate reduces, it promotes growth. ठीक है, सारे रेट्स कम होते हैं। सो रेपो रेट रिड्यूस करने से लेंडिंग रेट रिड्यूस होता है। देयर इज मोर डिमांड फॉर मनी बिकॉज द मनी इज अवेलेबल एट अ चीपर रेट, बट कोई जरूरी नहीं कि हो ही जाए। इफ द पीपल विल नॉट बोरो, ऐसा भी सिचुएशन होता है। आरबीआई रिड्यूस द रेपो रेट, लेंडिंग रेट गॉट रिड्यूस्ड, बट इफ पीपल आर इन नो मूड टू सेट अप इंडस्ट्रीज और बोरो, then the money supply may not increase. कोई जरूरी नहीं कि increase ही होगा। They are trying to make the money cheaper, but if the demand is very less, the people are not willing to at all to invest, then the money supply may not increase. But generally it happens that money is available at cheaper rate, so money supply generally increase. And when the RBI is reducing the repo rate and money supply they are not able to increase, there is less demand, then what is that situation called? बाद में पढ़ेंगे हम लोग, ठीक है। सो प्लीज आप लोग 2:30 पे डॉट आ जाया करो, क्योंकि हम आ जाते हैं 1:30 पे।